George, give us a smile. Oh, lovely.
I've grown up on these streets, but this cobbled road is proof I don't belong here.
I'm George, and I was born in the Royal Victoria Infirmary in Newcastle. I'm a Geordie, but then again I'm not sure I am.
My accent is like a letter sent through CCP censorship. Something gets through, but it's impossible to figure out any details. In the south, I've been often questioned as a Welshman, and being back home for Christmas is not the only thing that's questioned my label as a Geordie.
I'm wrestling with having lived in a place that doesn't fit in with the Newcastle I'm growing up to understand. Let's start with where I lived. These terraced houses.
Behind each of the main streets lies these almost beautifully charming roads. They serve as access for coal deliveries that would warm the heart of these lanky houses and spit out dark soot into the clear winter skies. But it's not ecology that threatens my belonging here. In fact, this place was a huge part of my upbringing.
What's a back lane got to do with me feeling Geordie? Well, to help answer, I went to a coastal ruin.
Hi.
The feeling of no longer being, but not yet having reached. You see these places online all the time. The beach is what you might call a liminal space. No longer the land we know, but not yet wet. A better example is this ruined Victoria Lido. It's no longer a place for swimming, but with the water continuing to ebb in at high tide and the site undeveloped for almost a century, it's hard to see it as being anything else. Stuck in the liminality, the space gives you the feeling of sharing the experience of those who bathed here. You can almost see the pale Victorian goosebumps of the swimmers. And then splash, you're back to the pond, face to face with a fat, fried potato.
But back in the streets of the north, the context is more important.
Hey, Carol Vorderman is convinced.
You see, it's been said that the back lanes of the north live in a liminality of their own. These cracks in the city are a boundary between past and present, unlocking another world.
And when I was younger, out here was a football pitch, a canvas, a toilet. We would play out here and it would become anything we wanted without the prying eyes of parents. The place full of kids' imagination and the ever-patient wheelie bins. At first, being out here makes me feel northern. I'd watch the famous scenes of the back lanes in Get Carter and Biker Photography Book and allow myself to take those images and feed my nostalgic pride and feel more Geordie. But those back lanes are not my story. Yes, the lanes represent the same liminal space, but the surrounding context that frames this crack in reality matters. The biker estate those images were taken in were a difficult place to live, and to the history of the city, quintessentially Geordie. The estate was condemned unfit for human habitation in 1953, and the estate itself took on its own liminality. Dozens of streets no longer considered safe for living, but a lasting sense of community kept families there nonetheless. Those that were moved out still look back on what an outsider and the council would call a shithole as the good old days. Their families grew up alongside the history of Newcastle, the great vessels built on their footsteps, the reluctant downfall of industry, livelihoods stripped away, the fall of the shipyards, the closure of the pits, and the trophies along the way. Comparatively, my family moved here before I was born, so the entire legacy of Newcastle in my family starts with me. And whilst I'm standing smugly in this back lane, others use it to fight the very thing I'm ashamed of. The back lanes of an equally central neighbourhood in Newcastle known as the West End have become under intense pressure as fly-tipping hotspots, an intuitive response to a place only seen by the bin men. But there's whispers that this is organised by the local residents, not in disregard for their homes, but as a way to keep prices down, to protect their back lanes from becoming the haven of middle-class kids with meandering, self-absorbed YouTube essays. Even now, as I live in Southampton, I guess I'm in some form of liminal Geordiness. I can no longer consider myself a Geordie in the way I thought, but I'm not yet ready to be anything else. Thanks for watching.